on, everybody out there? This is Popular Stranger, and we are back at you again today with another Madden 25 Ultimate Team video. In today's video, we're going to be going over some different lineup tricks that you can use to get a valid lineup for the brand new Game Time Lineup Shuffle head-to-head event in MUT 25. Let's go ahead and jump right on into it. So, what is this event? It's basically seasons, but with an extra bonus here, and there are lineup requirements. So, if you're going to your play games now, if you're going to your online games and you see the lineup shuffle here, but it has a lock on it, that simply means you do not have a valid lineup that meets the requirements to enter. And I'm going to show you my lineup and also a few kind of tips and tricks and things that you can do to get better players on the field without that impacting your OVR, because the main requirement is that you can have a max of an 81 OVR. Now, if you get an 80 or a 79, that will still work. It doesn't mean you have to have an 81. It means the maximum OVR for your total team can be an 81. I also want to talk about what actually goes into that equation of your overall when it's all calculated. The other requirements are a maximum of 7 uncommon players. So that means that you can't have any more than 7 green cards in your lineup. For those of you that maybe try to put silver cards in the lineup to get around this, that will not work. You cannot use silver cards at all. You basically can have a max of 79 overall players, between 70 and 79 overall is what I meant to say. No silvers, no 69s and below. The other part I think is the most confusing part. You basically have to have 8 game time players in your lineup, with 2 of them being an 84 overall or higher. So when I went through and built my lineup, I had all the requirements, but I think I only had at the time 6 promo players from the Game Time promo, and then I went ahead and added another one and it still wasn't working. I finally added an 8th one and it started to work. And again, it does say 2+ heroes or champions. I'll show you my lineup, and for me, the 2 hero/champions are going to be CJ Stroud and Xavier Worthy, so LTDs kind of fall in that grouping of heroes or champions, and then the 8 game time players that I have would be those same 2 guys, Xavier Worthy, CJ Stroud. Unfortunately, I was forced to put a Cowboy player in my lineup, so we got that fullback there. AJ Dillon, backup running back. We'll talk about how backups don't count towards your OVR. We have Oren Burks, Michael Carter II, Mike Dana, Christian Wilkins, which is a free card from the welcome pack on this promo, and I believe that's it. So we got 4 on defense, again with Michael Carter, Wilkins, Mike Dana, and Eagles legend Oren Burks, and then we got 4 on offense. The one that's hiding is AJ Dillon. Now, before you even go to start and assemble your lineup, what I would personally recommend is going over to change active lineup. You're going to want to hit triangle on PlayStation or Y on Xbox, and you're going to want to create a brand new lineup and go with an empty lineup. You can name it Event, you can name it Shuffle, you can name it Cowboys Suck. Whatever you want to name it, go for it. It's going to give you a blank lineup to work with, and while this is going to be a little bit tedious and annoying to build, number one, it's not going to mess up your main lineup when this event's over, or if you want to go back and switch to your normal team to maybe play MUT Champs or regular head-to-head seasons or Gauntlet this weekend. But also, I found that building from the ground up rather than taking an 85, 84, 86 overall team and trying to get them down to an 81, it can get a little bit more confusing. So whenever you want to switch back to any of your lineups, you just go to change active lineup. You can see I have my main Goon Squad, which is an 85 overall. We got the Game Time lineup. I'm going to go back over to that one, and it's just that easy. Now, the only players that will impact your OVR are going to be the front-facing depth chart players. So what I mean by that is left tackle through right tackle, but only one. The backups don't count. Tight end 1 counts, wide receiver 1, 2, and 3, halfback 1, fullback 1, quarterback 1, they all count. One of the players that I have snuck into the lineup here is Hines Ward, which is an 85 overall. He's clearly better than Garrett Wilson at an 83 overall, but because I have Hines Ward at wide receiver 4 and Wilson at wide receiver 1, this does not impact our OVR at all, and it actually helps us stay at the 81 OVR. Again, all front facing on the depth chart, so everything on defense, free safety, strong safety, right outside and left outside linebacker 1s, they all count towards your OVR. Middle linebacker 1 and middle linebacker 2 count. Everything behind that does not count. Same thing on the bottom here, CB 1, 2, and 3 all count towards the equation. defensive tackle 1 and 2 count towards the equation. Same with left end and right end. Everything behind that does not count. And also that means if I wanted to throw a player, and we kind of showed you with wide receiver, we'll do it free safety as well. If I want to throw in a player like Ife Melifonwu, I mean, he's an 85 overall. He didn't impact our OVR at all by throwing him in the lineup. Now, when we're in game, we can actually substitute him in at any position, that he fits naturally. And if I go back to the play screen, you can see my lineup is still eligible. We don't have that lock icon. It's still going to let me go ahead and play by adding in that player. So you can hide players in the back of your depth chart. You can also hide them on the specialist screen, which I want to talk about in a little bit more detail in a moment. Also, keep in mind that the special team screen does count. So I went and looked for a punter and a kicker that were right around an 80 or an 81 overall. You can put green uncommon players in here if you want. Just note that they do count towards that count that's allowed. And your maximum of green players or uncommon players, one more time, is going to be 8. With my lineup here, literally I only used 1 at defensive tackle, number 2, and 1 at halfback, because I just don't run the ball a ton with Devin Achane, but he has some decent speed there if I do want to run. Now, how else did we get below an 81 overall? You might notice a lot of my offensive line is out of position. This is just something that I did to try to keep the overalls down, but keep some good players on the field. So flip-flopping your tackles with guards, or as you can see here, Lane Johnson, who's normally a right tackle, putting him at left tackle brings him down to an 82. J.C. Latham, who's normally a left tackle, we put him at left guard, he's an 80. Quinn Meaners, normally my right guard, we put him at center. He's down to a 79. Now, this will not count as an uncommon player. He's actually an elite player, but because he's playing out of position, his overall dropped down to a 79, but he's still seen in-game as an elite. Frank Ragnow, who's normally my center, we moved him to right guard. He's at an 80 overall. I think Austin Jackson is the only offensive lineman on my offensive line that is actually playing not out of position, but we were able to, for the most part, keep an 80-plus overall offensive line. And when these guys get into the game, they show lower overall here, but they're still going to have the same attributes when they're out there on the field. This is not going to make that much of a big difference on the field. So another trick that I used on defense is you can take a heavy defensive end pass rusher and play them out of position as left or right outside linebacker. Now, if you get into a formation where your outside linebackers are in pass coverage, you're going to be in a little bit of trouble. But what you can see here is at right end, we put Mike Dana to get a game time player in the lineup. And then we put Jeffrey Simmons over at left outside linebacker, which is not ideal for him at all, but it keeps him at an 81 overall because he's out of position. But more importantly, he's in our roster or on our roster. And if I go to my specialist screen, we put him at rush left end 1, which means he's more so going to be a left end. He's going to play defensive end where he's, normally comfortable playing, and he's going to be a pass rusher. I kind of did the opposite for BJ Ojulari, who's more of a budget pass rusher, but we're going to need him to come through in this game mode. We put him at rush right end, and if we go back to the defensive screen, even though he's an outside linebacker, I put him at left end. That dropped him all the way down to a 77 overall. And again, this doesn't count as an uncommon player because normally he's elite. He's just playing out of position, which tanks the OVR on him, but we're going to get our best usage of him on the edge by putting him on our specialist screen right here. Now, you can also hide players in your specialist screen. Christian Wilkins, defensive tackle number 1, and then we have just this random green card at a 65 overall. He's actually a left end, but I'm playing him not only out of position, but also he's an uncommon player, so we dropped him down to a 65 overall. But if I go to my specialist screen, you might notice that at defensive tackle number 2, we have Haloti Ngata hiding behind here. So we can actually get another high OVR player on the field because he's here, but he's not impacting the requirements and he's not impacting the OVR. You can also do this with your cornerback. So CB1 and CB2 are pretty much always going to be on the field. We talked about how CB4 doesn't impact your OVR at all. And then also CB3 does. So we put Michael Carter there. But if I go to my specialist screen, anytime that I'm in like a dollar or a dime formation that has 4 corners on the field, it's going to look to the slot cornerback section, and we're actually going to have Rasul Douglas and Cooper DeJean out there. And yes, I know his name's Cooper DeJean. I say Cooper DeJean. It's a Philly thing. I'm not from Philly, but John Philly, it's just his nickname. So if you're going to complain about me calling him that in the comment section, that's why I deal with it. So one other tip here is on defense at middle linebacker 1 and 2. I got Shaq Leonard. He's playing in his normal position, 80 overall. And then we got Zach Bond, who's normally a left outside linebacker. He won't count as an uncommon, and yes, he is a green card, but that's because it's a team builder card. He's an elite. He's just playing middle linebacker out of position. But if we go back to our specialist screen, sub linebacker 1 and 2 really will end up being the two guys that play middle linebacker when I'm out there in a dollar formation. Cam Chancellor by default would be there when I'm in a dime formation. I might flip-flop them and, put Fred Warner here and Cam down here. But we're getting these two players on the field via the specialist screen without them impacting the requirements or the OVR, because if I put them in their natural lineup spot, because they're such high OVR, I'd probably go up to an 82. Now, I totally get it. Everybody's not going to have some of the same players available to them that I do, but the main takeaways that you should gather from this one is you can hide players on your specialist screen. You can't have more than 870 to 79 overall players, but that's only their natural card overall. If you're playing players out of position and they're elites going down to 79 or under, that won't impact it at all. And specifically from the Game Time promo, you have to have 8 Game Time players in your lineup with at least 2 of them being an 84 plus overall. So 84s, 87s, or 88s with the LTDs. And if you can't afford any of those cards, I mean, Christian Wilkins, I believe, will count as one. If he doesn't, you're probably going to have to get to grinding through solos and your field pass. The good news is, when you go and take a look at the solo challenges here, grinding through this content, you get an 80 and an 82 plus pack here. Will you be guaranteed an 84? Probably not, but you have a chance at those. The one place that you are guaranteed an 84 overall is if you can grind through the field pass. Now, I haven't fully done the math because one of the objectives that gives you a total of 1,500 XP is actually winning 5 games in this event. And I still believe that you can get to level 9 without that objective. Level 9 is actually going to give you an 84 plus B&D. So that would give you one of the 2 84s from the Game Time promo that you're going to need. And again, I believe the Welcome Pack Christian Wilkins would count as number 2. That's probably why they gave that card in a Welcome Pack for everybody to get. So if you can't meet those requirements, I don't know what else to tell you. I think that video explained it pretty well. If you got any additional questions, leave it down below in the comment section. And thank you for watching. My name is Popular Stranger. I'm out. Peace.